Thank you. So when I was 20 years old, I went on this trip to Thailand with two of my friends from high school. And please stay with me. I know you've probably heard a ton of white people talk about a life-changing trip to Thailand. Oh my God. You don't understand. It's like so amazing. You could just do nothing. You could drink out of buckets on the beach. Those people are correct, actually. It's awesome. But my story is different because I fell in love. Yeah. I actually fell for basically the first person I ever met who wasn't from my hometown. Yeah, I never moved in my entire life. I grew up in the same house. I went to school with the same kids from kindergarten to high school. When I was 15, I got a job at the movie theater in my town. I was obsessed with movies. I would see every single thing that came out multiple times if I could. And I remember we would get like free passes as staff, and we could bring one guest for free with us. So in 2007, when Transformers came out, yeah, I went on opening night with my one friend, and then I took all of my friends individually back to see it until I had seen it 8 times in theaters. Yeah. Yeah. And only one of those nights on opening night did the entire crowd erupt into applause when we heard the line, "My name is Optimus Prime." But that's the magic of movies I've been chasing ever since. I like romantic movies as well. I wanted to be an actor at that time in my life, and a lot of actors I know, or you see this in interviews, they'll say like they wanted to act because they saw someone act in a movie and it inspired them to do the same. For me, like when I watched movies, I wasn't thinking about the actors acting in them. The movies were very real to me. I was like, this must be what living in a city's like. Oh God, you never know who you could meet. Optimus Prime right around the corner. But yes, I did like romantic movies, and I also didn't necessarily like the romance parts. I never romanticized conventional ideas of love or marriage. I loved the parts where it was like, they're on again, off again. You catch your lover in bed with another man. They were only together because of a bet. But they fell in love for real. I loved that. And that's what I was fantasizing about in my mind. Like when I played Barbies, my Barbies were never getting married. I always pretended that my Barbie was a talk show host, like Jenny Jones. Yeah, and the other Barbie was an out-of-control goth teen whose mom just didn't understand her. Ugh. I remember watching those shows as a kid and being terrified of teenagers. Do you guys, just me? I was like, oh my, they're crazy. I don't want to be that age. But now, like, if you ever go back and watch clips of those shows on YouTube, it's like, oh, their parents just hated them. Yeah. The parents were like, oh no, she's experimenting with hair dye and expressing herself through makeup. What are we gonna do? Yeah, I feel very grateful watching those shows now because I always got along with my mom really well. You know, when I was 18, me and my mom went on a trip together to New York. Just the two of us. Yeah, it was for my graduation. Huge deal. We saw as many sites as we could. We were there for 4 days, and we saw like a Broadway show. At that time, the TV show Gossip Girl was at the height of its popularity. I was a fan, you could say. To quote a Facebook status of mine from that time, well, priorities. One, Gossip Girl. 2, breathing. So yeah. This was my big plan, was that I was gonna drag my mom to as many of the known filming locations as I could, right? And then we would see the cast filming, and that they would see me, and I would get discovered. Of course. Yeah, as if the entire crew got to set that day. They blocked off an entire New York City block. They set up all the lighting, spent hours setting up the cameras, and then right when the director went to call action, they'd be like, "Oh, we forgot to cast the part of the skinny, frizzy-haired girl with bad posture who looks like she's about to cry." And I'd be standing there like, fit right in. Unfortunately, those were photoshopped. I didn't get cast on Gossip Girl. We didn't see them filming at all. The night before we left New York, I cried in the hotel room. Yeah, not because I didn't get on TV, don't worry. I just remember thinking, like, there's so much to do and so much to see. And I want to do and see it all. I've kept journals my whole life. And this is a journal entry of mine from that time, like 2009. Someone at my work is writing a list of every movie they've ever seen. I kind of want to do it too. Don't know why. I just really love movies. I keep having this idea that I want to write a screenplay. I have all these funny ideas and little dialogues in my head, but I have no story. Do I just write them down? I probably should, shouldn't I? Maybe I should actually speak to someone about this. I need friends. I want to get out there, be put into social situations. I need to go to a party one night or something. I don't even know. I want to meet new people, have new experiences. I want to date, get out there, get messy, have crazy relationships, or random sex and have the guy never call me when he said he would. Does that stuff actually happen? I had no idea how like real adults live their lives. I spent all of my time in the auditorium at my school or the movie theater where I worked. I didn't know what was going on. So then when I was 20, I went on this trip to Thailand with two of my friends from high school, Joey and Curtis. And it was all of our first time going anywhere like without family. And we were all like, this is the craziest thing we've ever done. Oh my God. And we had to fly to Bangkok. And our flight landed in Bangkok at about midnight. So we fully expected, we were so tired, it's a long flight. And we were like, okay, we're going to show up, check into the hostel, and then go right to sleep like good little tourists, right? And then we'll wake up early in the morning and go see some markets. That was our plan. It was Bangkok at midnight. Yeah, we show up to the hostel. There's an entire group of people, a bunch of backpackers from all over the place drinking together, and they see us come in and they're like, hey, join the party. The guy checking us into the hostel was like, welcome, here's some rum in a bucket, join the party. We're like, okay, yeah, okay, let's do this. It'd be rude not to, of course. So we joined the group, and right away, this English girl, Chris, latches onto me. I don't know if she could tell I was overwhelmed, or maybe she felt bad that I was traveling with two guys, but right away, she comes up to me, she's like, oh my God, Gina, are you single? We're gonna get laid tonight. And I was like, oh, yeah, oh my God, yes. Can't wait for that. I do that all the time. At that time in my life, I had slept with one person. I had a boyfriend briefly when I was 18. I lost my virginity to him right after watching an episode of Family Guy. Yeah. So you could say I'm pretty adventurous. Yeah. But whatever, I go along with it. We all go out to this nightclub on Khao San Road. If you don't know Khao San Road, it's like this mini Las Vegas strip for backpackers in Bangkok. It's like everything you need, like restaurants, bars, hostels, hotels, street food promoters, vendors, everything stacked up on top of each other and condensed into 2 city blocks. So we go out to this nightclub on Khao San Road, and we enter. Right away, my new friend Chris is gone. No idea where she went. I'm like, whatever, I'm here with my friends. We're with a big group from the hostel. We get some more buckets, and we hit the dance floor. So we're dancing, And then I get this tap on my shoulder, and I turn around, and it's this like 6'7" Eastern European dude. And he's like, "Hey, you're pretty, where are you from?" And I'm like, "I'm from Canada, where are you from?" And he's like, I'm like, "Dance, you wanna dance?" He's like, Next thing I know, he picks me up and wraps my legs around him like a belt. It was awesome. And, we're dancing a bit, or rather he's dancing with me, and it's a good time. We even kissed a little. I was drinking rum out of buckets. This lasts for a couple songs. Then I get this tap on my back, and I look down, and it's my English friend, Chris. So I get my guy to put me down, and I'm like, "What's up?" She's like, "G, the guy I'm with thinks you're cute. He wants to switch." I look over at the guy she'd been dancing with, and I didn't find him particularly attractive. To me, he looked like Ed Sheeran, but like color swapped. Like he had a red face and white hair. Yeah. But whatever, I before I could say any of this to Chris, I turn around and my guy's already picked her up, belted legs and all. I'm like, I thought that was our thing. But I still think that this guy wants to talk to me, right? So I go over and I'm just like, "Oh my God, you think I'm cute?" And we both learned that we've been tricked by Chris. Yeah, but we bond over that fact because it's really funny. And then we keep like dancing for a bit, and he keeps saying more stuff, like whispering stuff in my ear that keeps making me laugh. And I'm like, okay, all you need is a guy who makes you laugh, right? Kill me. But, we dance for a bit. We talk about the music that's playing. He tells me his name is Nick. And then he says he has better music in his hotel room on his computer. And at that point, I decided he is cute after all. So I go along with it. Yeah, and he also said hotel room, not hostel. Yeah. I'm like, okay, I got the right guy in the trade. So I go to his hotel room, and I should say, before I went on this trip, I went to see my family doctor back home to get some shots and malaria pills and stuff. And when I told my doctor where he was going, he said to me, "Don't have sex in Thailand because syphilis doesn't go away." And I didn't know what some of you might be thinking now, and that is, there is a cure for syphilis. There is. I didn't know that. I didn't know that till, frankly, 2 months ago. But something else to note about Dr. Howie is he is the doctor who delivered me, as an infant. Yeah. He's the first person who ever saw me on this earth. And that's just weird to think about. So anyways, I can understand that he might have been feeling protective in some way. So we'll give him a pass. So I go up to Nick's hotel room, and what you're about to hear is a series of red flags, and I am sorry. But most of us do have to learn the hard way. So the first red flag being, of course, he was Australian. I didn't know. And then, we were kissing in the elevator going up to his hotel room. And when we're kissing, he breaks away for a minute and he says, "I bet we're the only two people in the world doing this right now." Yeah. It's like we were in Bangkok. We're not even the only two people doing this in this elevator. And then I find this kind of cringe. We did go up to his hotel room and listen to music. That's the first thing we did. He pulled out his laptop and he was like, name any song you can think of. I bet I have it. And I was like, that's so cool. Because at that time, if you wanted to listen to a song, you had to have downloaded it or bought it. No one was buying it. I was like, that's so cool that he spent all of his free time downloading music. So I was like, oh my God, okay, there's this actually song that I love that just came out. It's called Feels So Close by Calvin Harris. Yeah. And he didn't have it. I don't know what's worse, like him saying that in the first place, or me feeling cool for one-upping him with a Calvin Harris song. Yeah. So we did have sex. We did Sorry, Dr. Howie. But it was amazing. I had never felt so connected to someone in my whole life. Afterwards, we stared into each other's eyes for what felt like forever. Yeah, I'd never done that with anyone before. Or since. It's pretty weird. When I think about it now, I'm like, oh, he was probably on drugs. Yeah. But I wasn't. He was also the first person to ever give me an orgasm. So I was like, we're gonna spend the rest of our lives together. It was my first night in Bangkok, and it was his last night in Bangkok. And he kept saying all this stuff to me like, oh, Gina, I wish we met sooner. And like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm leaving. And so we added each other on Facebook to keep in touch and went our separate ways. Before I went on this trip, I was pretty miserable back home, actually. I was 20 years old. I had been graduated high school for 2 years. I wasn't going to school, doing anything with my life. I was just living at home like, oh, it sucks here. Everything's so boring. Why? And my dad was very much like, you know, you could do something. You could contribute around the house. You know, you could pay some fucking rent. You could mow the lawn. And I was just like, you know, I don't mow the lawn up to your standards. Weaponized incompetence is for everyone. Yeah. And my mom was very much like, it's okay, I'll talk to him about rent. You don't have to pay us rent, but like maybe you could get your driver's license and start taking yourself to work at the movie theater. Ugh, you guys suck. Yeah. They're not together anymore, but that's for another day. Yeah, and at that point, my siblings had both moved out as well. I am the youngest of 3. And so I just felt like I was having this very lonely existence. My brother is 3 years older than me, and my sister is 6 years older than me. So when we were kids, like that kind of age gap, you don't always find common ground together. But they always did. They found common ground in a game of, let's see if we can make Gina cry today. Thank you. And yeah, it wasn't difficult. I was a sensitive child, but they loved it. One of their favorite bits that they would do was when a toy commercial or something I wanted would come on TV, they would say, oh, we have that in a safe in the basement. And I would just be like, no, you don't have it. It's not even out yet. You guys don't have that toy. And then they would just be like, well, yeah, we can't tell you how we got it, but we have it. And of course, we're not gonna let you see it. And it upset me so much. It got to me. And I would go crying to my mom, probably for the 5th time that day. I would just be like, oh, Mom, Kaylee and Jacob said they had this safe and they have all the toys that I want and they won't let me see it. And she'd just be like, Gina, you know they're lying to you. So I'd go back and I'd be like, Mom says you're lying. And they'd be like, of course Mom doesn't know about the safe. What? It tortured me. I would go back to my mom and be like, but they said that even you don't know about the safe. And she would just be like, I don't know what to tell you, Gina. Maybe there is a safe. Yeah. The word gaslighting is overused, I think, and often used incorrectly. But when people started saying it, I was like, I know what that means. Yeah. Another time, my siblings we were all in the kitchen, and they were looking out the window into our backyard. And they were telling me, Gina, you have to look outside right now. There's Pokemon in the backyard. And I refused to look, because I was like, they're planning something. I know it. I'm not going to look. But they wouldn't stop. They would have stood there all day if they had to. The two of them would commit so hard, like Daniel Day-Lewis level commitment. They would look out the window and they're like, Gina, you have to see this. There's a Charizard fighting a Jigglypuff. Come on. And I remember finally just being like, maybe I'll just play along. You know, that's what they do with each other. Maybe it is nothing. Like, I'll just look. So I go and look, and I say, whoa, crazy you guys. There's a Pikachu out there. What? In the backyard? There's Pokemon out here. This is awesome. And they didn't even have to look at each other. They were just like, Gina, there's no such thing as Pokemon. What are you talking about? Gina, Pokemon aren't real. Mom, Gina thinks Pokemon are real. She watches too much TV. For months. Months, years. It would be like, remember that time Gina thought Pokemon were real and in the backyard? Yeah. But that's just what siblings do, right? I know, it's crazy. But we just accept that. But, you know, we're close now. And my sister sent me this video the other day, just a random TikTok. She's like, oh, you have to watch this, it's so funny. So I opened this TikTok, and it's like a video of an entire family gathered in the living room. The oldest brother is gonna do a magic trick. He's gonna make the youngest brother disappear. This little brother's like 6 or 7. So he gets his sheet, waves it over his little brother, abracadabra, voila! And little brother's still sitting there. The whole family's like, oh my God, what? Where did Lucas go? What? That's crazy. How did you do that? Oh my God, that's crazy. And little Lucas is sitting there like, what? What are you guys talking about? You guys can't see me for real? Hello? Hello? And they go even further. They're just like, oh my God, seriously, how did you do that, Jeremy? This is wild. And then Jeremy's like, I don't know. I didn't think I could actually, I'm magic? What's going on? And then the mom gets in on it, and she's like, this isn't funny, Jeremy. Where's your little brother? And little Lucas is sitting there like, Mom! And that's when I turned off the video. And I texted my sister back, and I said, that's not funny. This kid is gonna grow up with low self-esteem and a fear of opening up to others because he thinks he's always gonna be the butt of the joke. I don't find that funny. And she felt so bad. She was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, she's always apologized me for like the things they did to me as a kid. And she was like, I'm really sorry, Gina. I just thought it was funny. And you're right, this is something we would have done to you. And yeah. She was like, I know you had to talk to your therapist about it, but did you tell your therapist you think Pokemon are real? Because, yeah, you should cover that next. Yeah. But yeah, my sister, she moved out of the house early. She married her high school sweetheart, had kids young, did the whole thing. My brother was the only out gay person I met for a long time in our conservative town. So he moved out naturally to another city as soon as he could. And by the time I got to high school, I had basically a third sibling in my best friend, Kia. She lived at my house, let's just say that. And like when my brother came out of the closet, he came out to me and Kia together. And I do remember, like, I didn't believe him at first. I was just like, what? You can't be gay. You love the Spice Girls. You've like posters of girls all over your walls. What the hell? Kia was like, he's definitely gay. Yeah, but me and Kia were inseparable. We spent all of our time together every weekend, watching music videos, memorizing song lyrics, performing for each other, for no one, playing Mary-Kate and Ashley PlayStation games, because those exist, and they're hard. But the summer after high school in 2009, Kia got pregnant, which was shocking. she had been seeing a guy for a little while, and she had always talked about how she wanted to be a mom. So she just was like, yeah, we're gonna move in together and do this. And I remember her telling me that she was pregnant over the phone, and now I always wish that I was like more supportive in that moment. It's not that I wasn't supportive, but I was 18 years old. I had no context for it, and I didn't know what to say. I think I was even like, oh, okay, well, are we still going to the movies tomorrow? You know? I didn't know what to do. But I think I just thought neither of us were going to university in the fall. I just thought we were gonna spend every day hanging out like we always did, right? So it was like people were moving on. Life was happening to people. They were starting families, moving to other cities, and I just felt like I was there, just like stuck. I'd been telling everyone after high school that I wanted to go live and work in Europe for a year. That was my big plan. I was like, I'm gonna travel, and that's what I'm gonna do. My grandparents even got me 50 euros for my 18th birthday, which I still have in a box in my closet, because I've still never been to Europe. But 2 years went by after graduation of just me planning all these trips, talking about traveling, making very non-committal, vague plans, doing a ton of research. I was buying travel books for Italy, Croatia, everywhere, and just writing in my journals. Waiting for my life to start. Waiting for a letter. This isn't in reference to any specific or real letter, by the way. This is just, I was feeling poetic. I was like, people wait for letters, I don't know who. World War II wives, or people who've actually applied for college. Harry Potter. Waiting to make my decision. Waiting for a guy to ask me out, or, you know, just hang out or something. I'm in limbo. But then that summer, I got my letter in the form of my two friends from high school, Joey and Curtis, calling me up and saying, Gina G, we're planning a month-long trip to Thailand, and you have to come with us. And I was scared. I came up with every excuse not to at first. I was like, no, I'm saving money for Europe. That's my Europe money. I can't. And then I was like, oh, September? You're going in September? I have Taylor Swift tickets in September. Can't really. Yeah. But I asked them, like, okay, like, what's the plan? You're gonna go for a full month? Like, what are you gonna do when you're there? And they were like, I don't know, we're just gonna like backpack around and figure it out. I didn't know you could do that. I spent all my time researching and planning trips that I never went on. I had no excuse not to go. So I sold my Taylor Swift ticket for $50. I know. That's almost my biggest regret. But I went to Thailand. And so then there I am in Bangkok with this Australian guy, Nick. And it's my first night in Bangkok, and it's his last night in Bangkok. And he keeps saying all this stuff to me like, oh, I wish I'd met you sooner, and oh, I just think we'd be really good together. I often think about, like, what if we had met in a time pre-internet? You know, maybe we would have exchanged phone numbers. Maybe we would have written letters. But most likely, he would have been the story of this cool guy I met and what could have been. I think it's okay to blame Mark Zuckerberg for everything bad that happens. Yes. So, you know, the whole month in Thailand, I was just like obsessively thinking about him. I would go to internet cafes every chance I could get just to see if he was online. He was going to Paris, by the way. Paris, the city of love. Oh my God. I was so far gone. I wanted to ditch Joey and Curtis on an island and just go to Paris. I was like, ugh. But also in these internet cafes, I was keeping in touch with my friends from back home. telling them about this guy I had met and how I was feeling. So I went back and read my messages from that time, because I was just wondering, like, I wonder what they thought of all that. And this is a real message I found from my best friend, Kia. I said, I'm thinking of going to Paris now instead of finishing this trip. I feel crazy. She said, I think that would be a really good idea if this was a movie. But as your best friend, I have to tell you that going to a faraway country to chase after someone you don't know is a horrible idea. And she said, P.S. Yeah. Now you have syphilis, remember? Yes. Why did I tell her everything? And I remember being mad at her now, actually, for reacting that way. I was like, what? I never do anything. This is the one thing I've been excited about in years, and you're shitting on it? And like, what? Now, of course, I agree with her. But that's why when people say stuff like, what would you tell your younger self? I always say nothing, because I wouldn't fucking listen. Yeah. I didn't end up going to Paris, by the way. I floated the idea by Nick. I was like, what would you think? But he told me, he's like, you're in Thailand, that's my favorite place in the world. Like, he was like, you're going to all these islands that I was just on, and it's like the best time ever. You have to stay with your friends. And so I didn't take that as him not wanting to see me. I was like, oh, that's actually really thoughtful, because I'll be going to these places that he just was, and we'll have more common and more to talk about. Yeah. So I spent the month in Thailand with my friends, and it was a great time. We had the best time. We were meeting so many people, and I just remember thinking, like, oh my God, traveling is great. I could definitely do this alone. So our end of the trip, we had to go back to Bangkok to fly home. And we got a hostel on Khao San Road. I didn't tell the guys why I wanted to get a hostel on Khao San Road, but it was mostly because I wanted, I knew Nick wouldn't be there, but I wanted to like walk around wistfully, remembering. So it was the last day of the trip. The guys decided to go have a meal somewhere, and I declined to go with them, because I wasn't ready to go home. I was like, I had too much to think about. I had just met all of these cool people that were career travelers, you can like live on a beach and teach scuba diving? Wow, that's amazing. So I'm walking around just like trying to figure it out. Like, I don't know what I want to do with my life or where I want to go. And this man gets my attention. He says, hey, you look troubled. I'm an Indian yogi. I could tell you your fortune. I don't know if you could already tell, but I am a huge fan of Eat, Pray, Love. The movie, obviously, I've never read the book. But I was like, oh my God, this man is going to tell me what to do with my life. I'm Julia Roberts. Life was happening to me. So I'm like, please tell me my fortune. Yes, of course. And so the first thing he gets me to do is he says, write your name on this piece of paper and give it back to me. So I do that. Then he's writing on the piece of paper and asking me all these vague questions, and he keeps writing while I'm talking. And this goes on for a bit. He's like, you're not allowed to look at what I'm writing. Then eventually he says, okay, you're a lucky person, and you're going to live a fairly easy life. I think this is funny because 7 years later, I got hit by a car while crossing the street. I know that information came out of nowhere, but so did the car. So then he keeps talking to me. Then he's like, you're insecure, and you have a restless spirit, and you're lazy. okay, this guy's the real deal. And then the next thing he says to me is, you're going to live a long life, and you're going to return to Bangkok in 2 years with a man. Obviously, I had a man in mind. And he was like, so, do you believe me? I was like, yes, of course. Yeah, that sounds great. Then he gives me a new piece of paper, and he tells me to write down my mom's name, my birthday, mom's maiden name, car's make and model. Just kidding. No, he wasn't trying to steal my identity. He told me to write down my mom's name, my birthday, and how many siblings I had. So I did. And then he showed me the piece of paper he'd been writing on, and all of the same stuff was written. My mom's name, my birthday, and how many siblings I had. I didn't tell him any of that. I got goosebumps and like tears started streaming down my face. And he was like, so you'll come back and see me in 2 years with your man? I'm like, yes, I'll see you. Yes, thank you so much. It doesn't matter if you believe in like psychics or fortune tellers. What I needed in that moment was just a push, just someone to tell me what I wanted to hear. So I go home from the trip and I'm back to being miserable. I'm just like acting like a bitch to everybody, like, oh, it sucks here. Ugh. And I was just like waiting awake until 4 or 5 in the morning just to see if Nick would be online. And he would be, oftentimes. And we chatted a lot. He was still backpacking in Europe. He was going to be there for like 6 months. And we talked all the time, and he would send me songs that he thought I'd like. And I was like, oh my God, it's so cool that he knows so much about music, and like, not in a pretentious way. He knows indie music, but he's not too cool to say he likes pop music, and he's just not like other guys. He was still traveling in Europe, and I really wanted to go see him still. But I just didn't know how it was gonna work. I'm like, what would my plan be? And he was moving around so much. I went back and read our messages from that time, and I can see why we connected, because he was traveling alone, wishing he had someone to share it with, and I was at home, hating my life. So we keep talking, and 6 months goes by, and finally he's headed back to Australia. And we're still talking, and he's still saying all this sweet stuff to me, like, oh, Gina, like, I just wish you were here, and like, oh, we'd be so good together. So I started thinking, like, what if I went to Australia, right? What if I just went there instead of going to Europe? Because I want to travel, I want to do something, and it'd be so cool to see him. So I talked to him about this, and he's like, oh my God, yes, I think it'd be a great idea. And we started talking on Skype. He told me he had some roommates, but they were cool with it. And the plan was made. I got a 1-year working holiday visa, and I bought my plane ticket. Obviously, my friends back home and my family were concerned. But I told them, I'm not going there for him. I've always wanted to go to Europe. And Australia is just like hot Europe. And they were like, okay, but you're gonna go, and then like, what if it doesn't work out with this guy? You're gonna not know anybody there. And I was like, well, if we date for a few months and it doesn't work out, then I'll have a job and some friends by then. I'll have seen some koalas and it'll be fine. So every time I started to feel a little bit like unsure about my decision, he would send me a really sweet message. And a month before my flight was booked, he sent me this. Happy Valentine's Day, Gina. When you get here, we'll pretend every day is Valentine's Day. I know. I was head over heels. I couldn't wait to see him. I couldn't wait to quit my stupid job, and I couldn't wait to get another stamp on my passport. So I'm on the flight to Brisbane, that's where he lived, and The whole time I was just like, stomach was in knots. I was not feeling well. I had just gotten over this cold and like, oh my God, all of these things racing through my mind. Like, I know we met in person, but like, what if we don't recognize each other? And then, you know, what if the ozone in Australia gives me instant heat stroke? What about that? What if, are we gonna kiss? Is my nose gonna start to run when we kiss? What if I'm not attracted to him when I get there? What if he's not attracted to me? What if he stinks? What if I stink? Do I stink? Ugh, like just, it's a 13-hour flight and a 4-hour layover in Auckland and then another 4-hour flight. And finally, I arrive at the airport and he's there. Obviously we recognize each other and he's holding flowers and we hug and then we go to kiss, but we kind of like miss. We do one of those where like our faces touch and it's like, ooh. So I was like, whatever, I just got off this crazy flight, we'll find it. We go back to his place and I shower, I get myself together, and then we slept together and it wasn't like it was in Thailand. Yeah, I was still so nervous. I don't know why. We needed to break the ice. So that night we split a bottle of vodka and I got blackout drunk. Yeah. The next day, we were going to meet a bunch of his friends at an Australian football game and hang out with them all day. And I still felt really sick. Like, not hungover because I was 20, but just like a mix of jet lag and general anxiety. So I didn't drink, but Nick did. And he was the life of the party. You could tell all his friends loved him. They would laugh at everything he said. And I was like, okay, I like that, because you want to be with someone who everyone likes. But I was thinking about the last time I saw him in Bangkok. And we stayed up until the morning, and he took a cab to the airport. And he looked out the back window at me, and we didn't break eye contact until he was out of sight. He wasn't looking at me like that now. He wasn't looking at me at all. But his friends were really nice. They were so nice. They were like, oh, Gina, it's so cool that you're here, and what's your life like in Canada? And they told me that Nick talked about me a ton before I got there, so I was relieved. The next day, it was just the two of us again, and just at his place, hanging out. And I had this plan that I was gonna go travel to Sydney for a little bit, because he had this job where he worked 1 week on, 1 week off. He would fly away for work, which I knew going in. So I was like, that's fine. I'm a strong, independent woman. Like, I actually wanna do some solo traveling before I settle down with you, so. We made the plan. I would go to Sydney, travel around for a few weeks, and leave some stuff at his place. So that was set. He said he'd drive me to the airport the next morning. And then he said, well, great. I hope I see you around again while you're here. I thought he was like kind of hinting that he didn't want me to stay with him and his roommates when I got back. So I was like, yeah, of course. Like, I'm gonna come back to Brisbane and probably get a job here and look for my own place. And he said, oh, well, that's great. Maybe we'll bump into each other. I was like, well, we will, because we'll be seeing each other, we'll be dating. And he said, I don't want a girlfriend. Oh. I wish you would have told me that before I got a 1-year working holiday visa for this hot, dusty country that doesn't even have any castles in it. I didn't say that. I said, what about the last few days or months of talking? It was fun. Well, what are we then? Are we just friends? Because I don't think I can hang out with you and like, you not want to kiss you and stuff. We can still do that. What's the difference? I can sleep around. I came here to be with you. You made a mistake. That was the first time I had admitted it to anyone, including myself. I came here to be with you. I couldn't stop crying. He was just staring at me, like neither of us had anything else to say. I was sobbing uncontrollably until finally he reached out and he said, "You're in a bad way, aren't you?"
Oh my God.
And then he hugged me. There's nothing like having somebody completely crush you and then try and comfort you. Pick a side. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that it ended before it even started. And did I misunderstand something? Like, he kept saying in the messages, we'd be good together. What did I miss? How could I be wrong? I couldn't believe I told everybody I knew back home about him and how I felt, and that I was sure he felt the same way. Could the Indian yogi have been wrong? So Nick decides he's gonna go to the gym to give me some space. And I was just left there alone, and I kept thinking about the time we spent together in Bangkok and how much fun we had. And to this day, still one of the most fun nights of my life. And I was desperate for him to remember that. So when he got back from the gym, I basically threw myself at him and we slept together again. It wasn't good. Nothing happened. I didn't start crying or anything during, but nothing happened. It was empty. And then I spent the night there still, in his bed, facing the wall, crying. I had nowhere to go. And then the next morning, he still drove me to the airport. And when I got out of the truck, I kissed him goodbye. Because I was so desperate for him to remember what we had. And I kept thinking, if I keep showing him affection, he'll remember how he feels about me. I wasn't looking forward to telling my friends and family back home. I didn't call them because, I had been there for 3 days. I didn't have a working phone yet. But I couldn't bear the thought of saying it out loud and breaking down and having them hear me. So I waited a day and I told everyone that he blindsided me over Facebook Messenger. Now, Kia obviously wanted me to come home. My mom wanted me to come home as well, but she would never say that. She has this thing where she's like, I can't tell you what to do. It's your life. You have to make your own decisions. And so she would send me messages like, do what you have to do, but home is here. Home is an option. But my siblings told me to stay. This is a message I got from my sister, Kaylee. I'm so sorry. Just stay there, but get as far away from him as you can. Huge hugs. Be the strong bitch I know you can be, and it'll all be good. In 1 week, you'll be writing me about how much fun you're having. And my brother, Jacob, sent me this. That's so shitty. What a dick. I can't believe it. Maybe it's for the best, though. Now you get to travel around and be independent and maybe make some new friends. Do your best not to come home. So they both knew that I needed this in a weird way. That if I went back home, I would go back to just daydreaming all the time, only it'd be worse because I'd be sad. So I was sad in Sydney instead. Yeah, my second day in Sydney, I decide, I'm gonna try and do all the fun things. I did the Sydney Harbour Bridge climb, where you go up on top of the infrastructure of the bridge. Yeah, and it was just me and all of these couples and groups of friends on vacation. I just felt like they were all looking at me like a rain cloud. What is this alone girl doing here? At the top, you have to take a souvenir picture, and the tour guide actually had to tell me, please, take off your sunglasses. And he forced me to smile with my teeth because I just couldn't. That's me. It's. I've never shared that photo before because it's the saddest memory for me. Yeah, but I managed to make small talk with a couple people in hostels, and everyone told me that I should go to Byron Bay, which is like this beautiful hippie surf town. So I went there, and I did a surf lesson, and it was just me and a school field trip of 13-year-old Australian kids who've all been surfing their entire lives. And I'm just like, I couldn't stand up on the board at all. It's so hard. Oh my God. Afterwards, I just remember like crying on the beach, like, it's fine. Oh, and the song Someone Like You by Adele had just come out. You could not escape that song. Oh my God. Like everywhere I went, every cafe or restaurant, just like running to the bathroom to sob to Adele. Actually, if you weren't going through a breakup when Someone Like You came out, I kind of feel bad for you. Yeah, I did stay in Byron Bay for just over a week because it is so beautiful, and I liked the hostel that I was staying at there. And I'm going to read you a journal entry. Where is it? From my 3rd day in Byron Bay. I might be bipolar. It's been like this since he dropped the bomb on me. Extreme sadness followed by happiness. I wouldn't say extreme happiness. Inside I'm still sad. But I just can't focus on the bad. I can't dwell on it. It's tough. I did have a great night though, thanks to a different guy. Okay, so I met this Italian guy in the hostel, and I don't have any pictures of Nick, but I miraculously have a picture of this guy. And I met him in the hostel, and he was so hot. He worked as a cleaner, and he was just like always outside doing shirtless push-ups. And did I mention he was hot? Oh my God. So anyway, he saw I was sad yesterday and tried to make me feel better all day. Beers at the beach, then a night of drinking goon. If you don't know what goon is, it's an Australian delicacy. It's extremely cheap, disgusting boxed wine. I didn't get too wasted. After the night before's events, I didn't want to have another breakdown. I had a lot of breakdowns. Anyway, I slept with him. It was fun. It was fun. So I often wish that I stayed in Byron Bay, but I had to go back to Brisbane to get my stuff from Nick's place because I left my stuff there. Obviously, I was still obsessed with him as well. But I had this plan. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go see him, get my stuff, and I'm gonna confront him and ask him why he changed his mind about me. You know, he brought flowers to the airport. That has to mean something. So I'm calling him, and he's dodging my calls for a full day. I cannot get a hold of him. Eventually, he calls me back, and he's like, oh yeah, like, I'm just gonna be at my friend's place. I'll bring your stuff there. So I had to go meet him at his friend's place. I show up, there's like 3 other guys there. I'm like, okay, you need the protection? But I obviously chickened out on confronting him. So I got my stuff, and I went to another hostel. I did stay in Australia for a full year. Yeah, because I hate to be wrong. I can now say that I've cried on every landmark on the Australian East Coast. Yep, Sydney Harbour Bridge, cried on top of it. Mm-hmm. Australia Zoo, cried in a kangaroo's pouch. Great Barrier Reef, cried underwater. Ooh. Yeah. You're like, how? Goggles. Actually, the crying at the Great Barrier Reef was partially also because scuba diving, I quit halfway through the day. It turns out it's scary. What? You guys, it's like you're breathing out of this tiny, tiny tube. There's oxygen on your back, sure, but you don't know how long that's gonna last. And it's actually hard to breathe. And then you're like being crushed by the pressure of the ocean. Scuba diving's not for me, I guess. So yes, I did cry on the boat for most of that trip, but that's fine. Okay. I traveled up and down the East Coast. I did odd jobs for the full year. I made a lot of friends. I made some great friends, actually, but I never told any of them why I actually came to Australia, not even when I was drunk. And I was drunk the whole time. Yeah. Yeah, that's, well, you can see. These are all the photos that I have. I couldn't find any. Oh, another drink in their hand. Oh. Well, yeah. Oh, yeah, and I've protected everybody's identity by using a photo of Hugh Jackman from the movie Australia. Yeah. I ended up my year in Australia back in Sydney, actually, and I got a job at a movie theater. Right next to the Sydney Opera House, which was overlooking the Sydney Harbour Bridge. And I would go out on my lunch breaks and sit outside and look at the bridge, and I'd cry into my sandwich, just remembering where I'd been emotionally when I first visited there. And then at the end of the year, I went back home to Canada. I never saw Nick again. I never heard from him again. When I got back, I deleted him off Facebook. I never returned to Bangkok with a man or otherwise. And then I eventually moved to Vancouver. And 7 years after my travels, I got hit by a car while crossing the street. Yes, I was walking home from the movies, of course. So I can say that seeing Frozen 2 in theaters changed my life. Yeah. Yeah, pretty good. It was December 25th, 2019. It was Christmas Day. I often don't like telling people that. Because people hear I get hit by a car and they go, oh, that sucks. And then they hear that it happened on Christmas and they're like, no! But I just have to explain that, like, I live in Vancouver, so does my brother. We don't go visit the rest of our family for Christmas. We made our own traditions. You know, we go to a movie, and then we take turns pushing each other into traffic. Yeah. He won. But people like to ask me how it happened, like, how did the car hit you? They're often like, were you wearing dark clothes in the rain, which is victim blaming. But no, it was a beautiful, sunny Vancouver Christmas day. And I was standing at an intersection waiting for the walk light to turn on. And this driver was, waiting to turn right on a red light. And the walk light turns on, and I walk, and then he drives, and we met in the middle, and he ran me. And he didn't run me over. He stopped before he got over. Nice guy. But so I'm like laying on the ground, like, crying. And this man stops the car. He opens the door to get out of the car, and it's the oldest man I'd ever seen. I was like, are you okay? But he felt so bad, obviously. He kept apologizing to me. My brother was on the phone with 911, so this man is just talking to me, just like getting right up close, and he's like going, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. And he keeps trying to like hug me and like touch my shoulders. And it's like, there's nothing like having somebody crush you and then try and comfort you. Pick a side. So I had to get emergency knee surgery, and I spent the next 6 weeks in my apartment recovering. I didn't leave my apartment at all. And at the end of those 6 weeks, just when I was ready to re-enter the world on my crutches, it was March 2020. Yeah. So I'm back in my apartment, and like a lot of people, I am completely alone with my thoughts and feelings for the first time in a long time. And I was talking to a therapist for the first time in my life over the phone because I had PTSD from the accident. And we talked about that for a while. Then eventually, we were talking about other things, and I said to her, I'd really love to talk about actually this thing that happened to me in Australia. I can't stop thinking about it, and I'm always thinking about it. And the other night, I was reading my journal from that night, and it was so sad. And she goes, whoa, don't do that. She said, your journal is to get your feelings out in the moment, not to relish in later. Which is advice I've clearly taken with a grain of salt. But she told me to write a letter to Nick and not send it. Classic therapy move. So I do, and I realize I'm still really angry. I'm really angry at him for what he did to me, for tricking me. But I'm really angry at myself for going there in the first place. And mostly, I was embarrassed. I was still so embarrassed. Anytime it would come up over the last 10 years that I lived in Australia for a year, people would be like, oh, what's it like? Why'd you go to Australia? I'd be like, oh, whatever, it's fine. I moved there for a guy and it didn't work out. Gotta go, jump out the window. I'm like, I couldn't go into detail for so long because I just couldn't talk about it. And I want to be able to talk about it. So last year, I had this personal quest to watch every teen TV series ever made. Yeah. So last year, I started watching the show Felicity from the 90s. Yeah. If you don't know Felicity, you know, it's not your typical high school teen soap opera, okay? It's so good. It's a college teen soap opera. But the first episode of Felicity, like, knocked me over. It's like Carrie Russell is sitting there on the field. It's the end of the year. She's graduated high school. She's got her yearbook. And this hot guy, Ben, who she always thought was hot, comes over to her. And he's like, yeah, I'll sign your yearbook. And he says something offhand to her like, hey, you always seem kind of cool. And then she goes, oh my God, where are you going to school next year? And he goes, NYU, see ya. And from that, she decides, I'm gonna go to NYU next year. And watching that, I was like, what? That's crazy. Oh. That's the most relatable episode of television I've ever seen. Because when you're young, when I was young, I didn't know you could just do things. Like, I needed an excuse, I needed permission or a push. And for the longest time, like, I thought this trip to Australia that I took was this, like, mistake. I had all these hopes and dreams for things I wanted to do, and Australia was like, oh, this, like, detour, and it ruined everything about my life. But I got everything I wanted. Like, I wanted to have an adventure. I wanted to be thrown out of my comfort zone, be put into social situations. I wanted life to happen to me. I wanted to have crazy relationships or have random sex and have the guy never call me when he said he would. Yes, it turns out that actually does happen.
Message for the right to bear arms. Harmful Gina Harms. It's the man with the plan and the golden tan. It's the voice of the lady's choice. And I know, baby, you might have fallen off track, but you're gonna be back, and that's a fact, Jack. That's the truth, Ruth. That's 100%, Brent. Take it to the bank, Frank. When I say something, it's gospel. If I tell you the moon's made of cheese, get you crackers, brother. If I tell you mosquito can pull a plow, hook him up. And I'm telling you that harmful Gina Harms will be back better than ever. She'll be rocking and rolling. She'll be strutting and strolling. You know it, I know it, and the Canadian people know it. Woo!